Okay, in today's video, because I thought it's been such a long time since I've really done, I guess, a regular style video, I thought we'd start off the new year by just doing a look around. I know there have been a lot of people asking me how the green's looking, how our little Zoysia project's coming along, had a few questions about the Durban grass, buffalo, Tiff and Santa Ana at the front. So I thought today I'd get in early and start this video. Today is meant to be, what's today? Today's Wednesday. It's meant to be getting up to sort of 37, 38 degrees. So I wanted to get this video shot early before the heat kicks in, and I'll head back inside into the aircon. So let's start with the putting green here. So did a little bit with Dan there, which we shot late last year. Now we're now into January, and you can see the green itself is still looking really, really good. Now, we haven't had substantial rain now for quite a period of time, and you'll have a look over here and you'll see that we've got some dry patches. Now, the reason all this here gets irrigated the same amount as the green around here, etc. But the reason this section here always dries out more is because this here is back to clay. So this is the original ground through here. Now, even with the same amount of water, you can see here we get back into the soil that I've imported back in the day when I constructed the green. And it just goes to show just how much benefit there can be by having a good growing medium, because obviously we allow for better drainage, better infiltration, better aeration. And as you can see, when we look at this angle here, you really can see exactly the difference that we get. Now, how can we combat this sort of thing? How do we get around this? So we look here, we've got this section. What we can do is, there's no point simply dialing up these sprinklers more, because we don't need to put any more water on the green. You can see it's looking fine. It'd be wasteful to turn those on for any longer than they're watering. So some of the things we can do, obviously I'm running a soil wetting program here. That is not a silver bullet. That is just one of the tools in your tool chest. What I would do here is I could hand water if I was that way inclined in the afternoon, after work, whatever the case may be. You could simply stand here with a drink, hand water that area. But what I reckon for me, going forward, probably going to get one of those little soaker hoses, those green soaker hoses, or even some of the people have got the brown irrigation tubing with the little predetermined drippers in it, and you can set those up and just leave it just ever so gently overnight, and that will just slowly bite down into that clay soil and really rehydrate it and turn it around. So that's a solution for that there. Just isolate your watering to suit those sort of areas. Don't see there to be any need to add extra water to this area here, because it simply doesn't need it and it becomes a waste. So that's probably a really good tip there. If you've got sections that are drying out, just little random sections, there's no need for you to dial up your entire system. Just hone in on those little areas by hand or with a little extra sprinkler, because sometimes that's all it needs. This is what I was plugging out the day the camera fell over and got damaged. So you can see here now, what was it, about November? I'll put the date up on the screen. I'm pretty sure it was November that these are all planted from our main patch of Zoysia. Okay, so you can see here, this is where I took the plugs with our Pro plugger, and they're filling in really well. I could probably actually, it's a bit shadowy there, I could probably actually nearly put a little bit more sand just to top those plugs back up to the surface there. But yeah, so I've got the mesh here just because Max isn't, how do I put this? Max may choose to have a scratch around in this if he caught a smell that he wanted, but he's actually not the sort of dog to actually try and break in here to deliberately dig this up. So the mesh here is just loose on the surface, and so far it's working a treat. Now, you can see here, this stuff is slow, but you can see now it's really starting to sort of move in. In fact, I did see some runners this morning actually. Where are they? It's creeping across here. Again, a little bit starting to creep there. I did actually see some bigger ones, but I can't put my finger on them at this exact point in time. So I'm sort of envisaging that these should be well in their way to almost touching by the end of this season. So going forward next season, I should have an amazing bit of nursery stock to continue slowly coming across and changing out this Santarana Golf Green into our new Zoysia. Now, as I've mentioned quite a few times before, this is not Sir Grange. This is a new greens grade Zoysia that is currently here on assessment and trial. So it's not publicly available. It's not commercially available. It is here on trial and assessment. And I'm obviously reporting my findings back through Lawn Solutions and sort of giving them feedback on how it chooses to perform. So yeah, so really happy. It's slow, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing for me. I do love the color, because if you're busy and you're tied up with work, you don't necessarily get the opportunity to mow it as much. It doesn't grow as fast as Cooch, and it gives you amazing color and amazing surface. So really happy with how our little Zoysia project's coming along. Okay, so wander around now to our buffalo section and our new Durban grass trial, not trial, but our new Durban grass nursery, if you will. And you guys will remember I planted this at the end of last season. Was planning to have coverage over the winter period and get ready for this season, and I think you'll agree we've achieved that now. So you've got to excuse, we've got a few broadleafs poking through here. Got a little bit of caustic weed here, dandelions and milk thistle, etc. So I need to get this treated with a little bit of broadleaf herbicide, and this is probably ready for a mow. But as you can see, we've got some really thick, good coverage now, and it's sort of, I'm at the point now where I could probably continue going up. Now, there is a real color difference between the two. This is more of a limey green, where your Sapphire Buffalo is more of a dark, lush green. So I've got to be sure that I want to have a color change if I continue going up, which at this stage, I'm still tempted to push on. So, yeah, that's the Durban, and it's really filled in really nicely. Righto, so the rest of our buffalo is looking pretty good. Once again, we've got this yellowy, whiter patch over here, and a lot of that again is to do with the fact that the weather here has really turned on the heat and really backed off on the rain. So you see here, we've got these areas here, a bit more lush, a bit more growth, and we get to a drier section here. So again, it's just simply, we've gone from really wet weather into really hot and dry, and the grass just isn't prepared for it. So leading up to this, we're having all the weather, all that sort of stuff. What happens is the grass roots don't actually have to go too far to find water. So they tend to come back up towards the surface a little bit. So we need to encourage those guys to go down again, and they would be doing that now. This drought, or these dry conditions, I wouldn't call it a drought. These dry conditions would simply be stressing this stuff out a little bit. And I've even actually got trees here that are starting to wilt a little bit because of the same reason. So not overly concerned. Again, this is probably ready for a cut. Well, it is ready for a cut now. Haven't got time to do that right now. But what I have found is I'm mowing this on the tallest setting of the Tyro battery mower, which is about the 4-inch mark. Now, in the past, I've had it really tall like that, and I've had it down to about 2 inches, which is at about 5 centimeters or so. I find at the absolute top end of the height, it probably does lose a little bit, just a tiny little bit of drought tolerance. So nearly knocking this down, probably back to 3, probably down to 3 inches. I find for this species of buffalo in particular, I can't vouch for others, I find that it does just hang on a little bit longer. It seems that once you get above that 3, it does get a little bit more thirsty, which is interesting because a lot of people think leave grass taller, it's going to give you more drought tolerance. But in this case, I've found the sweet spot to be about 2.5, 3 inches, and it seems to really enjoy that. So that's what's happening around with the buffalo. Everything's nice and green, except the greater backyard. So we'll have a quick look at that now. That's going to bring all this into perspective. So it's going to give you an idea of exactly how dry it is here at the moment. I don't irrigate anything past the green and the buffalo. So when we look at the back of the rest of the yard here, you'll see that things are drying right out. Come around the front now, and I haven't actually done a great deal on channel this season with our Tiftuf, but let me tell you, this grass is at the point at the moment that it looks like it nearly glows. A bit dewy at the moment, but super happy. That Toro mower's been laying some really nice stripes. Little tiny bit of seed head starting to pop up through here now, and a lot of that is I'm going to put down to the season. As I said earlier on when Dan was here back in December, and he pointed that out then. Traditionally, I don't see a lot of seed head even in Santa Ana couch, and I was seeing a lot of it. We had a very slow start to summer. It's here now, and things like that can affect grass plants and plenty of other plants as well. They sort of go into hormonal triggers, I guess, cool nights. They get a little bit confused about what season it is and what's happening around them. So they tend to go into a bit of a self-preservation mode. And the grass obviously still thinks that its seed head is viable and it might need to set seed to save its species. Now, all of these sort of grasses, Tiftuf, Santa Ana, any of these improved varieties of couch grass, none of them produce viable seed. In other words, the seed won't grow, or you can't buy, for example, Tiftuf seed and plant it. Just doesn't work that way. The only way you get Tiftuf or any of these other varieties is to simply get vegetative means, so be that runners or stolons or rolls of turf, etc. But really impressed. I'm not seeing any of the scalping issues that some people are reporting at this stage. It's probably due now for just a slight groom. And I think it's quite interesting because Ben Sims, he just recently did a groom with his kikuyu. So, Ben and I always seem to bounce off each other in the sense that, we're doing things as they need to be done. And it just happens that he did his kikuyu the other week. This is probably just at the stage now where I could give it a little tickle up just to thin out a little bit of the stuff, but by no means is it mowing scalpy. So height of cut for this is 12 millimeters. And at first I was a bit like, oh, I'd like to be a bit shorter than 12. But no, look, I'm happy. 12 will be fine. 12 is a good manageable height, and it creates a fantastic surface. And the amount of people that actually stop on their walk or whatever and comment on it. So really impressed with the Tiftuf. As I said, what's it now? It's nearly 12 months old, or not quite. Yep, so far so good. Can't really say I'm not happy with it, but no, it's going really well. Okay, so last but not least, it brings us to our Santa Ana couch lawn. Now, obviously this was our ryegrass oversow through winter. And as I said, I sort of went off air towards the end of the year and I didn't get an opportunity to take you guys through the steps of bringing it back through to couch. But I ended up spraying it out in November. We got good weather up until then. And it was probably a little bit late. I probably should have done it a little bit earlier as the couch started to come through and intertwine with the rye. It didn't look the best. So I should have done it a little bit earlier. I just wanted to sit back and see how long I could carry on with it. But as it turns out, I probably should have stuck to doing it a little bit earlier, probably the October long weekend or something, even, about the October long weekend for us, or even a bit before, would have been ideal. We still have a little bit of scarring in places that were obviously heavier with the rye, and there is actually one or two tiny bits of rye still sort of floating around in here. So obviously I could give this another hit with Tribute or something like that just to knock those last existing ones out. But all in all, pretty happy. But again, talking about seed head, I've never had problem with seed head ever before on this Santa Ana, but like everyone this year, I am battling it. And the best way that we can combat that is by using our PGR. So all my couch grasses here have had now one hit of PGR mixed with iron just to compensate the color loss. But green and surround is probably nearly due again, and this is probably about a fortnight off being ready to be reapplied. So that's what's happening. We had a few scars here. I'd nearly suggest that this here might have been a little bit of spring dead spot, just in here. We've got a little bit of bareness just in front of the hedge here. Again, this would be a shade and moisture issue from the hedge. So this will be slow to come back with the cooch from the ryegrass, but it'll happen. So you can see that along there. And over here was our known patch of spring dead spot. So we'll have some scarring over here. And again, so yeah, here's our bits of rye. So we've still got a few little bits of rye around, and that's the last of our spring dead spot scarring, a tiny bit there. So yeah, that's that'll give you guys a brief overview of what's been happening here since, I guess, the last few months or two that I haven't been on air. That's what's been happening. It'll help going forward as to where we're at with projects and stuff like that. Anyway, guys, look, we'll wrap the video up here. Have a fantastic weekend, and we'll catch you next time on the Aussie Lawn.